next couple of hours for a threat of a few severe thunderstorms. Here you can see it highlighted in red. Could be pushing towards Macon later on tonight, as well as Columbia and into Charlotte. Alex has more.
Indeed, as we check in on Asher, Oklahoma, trying to recover from flooding earlier in the week, but before they get a chance to dry out, well, more drenching rains. We're going to see that moving on in. Oklahoma, just one of 6 states that could see damaging and even dangerous floods. More than 9 million people are under a flash flood watch. Let's take a closer look at this dangerous flood threat for the plains as well as the Midwest. Could be pretty widespread out there for us here heading on through the coming days. So let's focus on the areas essentially here, eastern parts of Oklahoma into Arkansas, Missouri, up to St. Louis, the southern parts of Illinois. That is the zone of greatest concern at the moment. We already have been dealing with the rain that has moved through these areas, so the grounds are already saturated. The rivers, they're running pretty high. And then we bring in our next system, which is not going to be a very quick mover, very slow to get out of here. So that's going to mean rain coming over some of the same areas along with our stalled out front. That's going to be focusing the rain over those same spots as well. Another thing that we'll be watching is record moisture coming on into these areas as well. So it is all just coming together for a bad situation here. Setting up here for us over the coming days. Up to St. Louis, the southern parts of Illinois, going through that is the zone of greatest concern at the day. We already have been dealing with the rain that is area here. We're looking at the very least saturated. The rivers are rainfall pretty high. And then we bring in our next system, which is not going to be a very quick possible here for us. A lot of rain. There could be even some locally higher amounts that'll be possible. Now, what you're looking at here is the actual flash flood guidance here over a 3-hour period. And basically what that means is how much rain would you need in that 3 hours to get flash flooding? Well, you notice right in this area, that darker shade of the green, it's going to take less than 2 inches in a 3-hour period, and that will certainly be possible here for us as we move our way through the coming days. So that is no doubt going to be one of the concerns that we follow, that zone, south portions of Missouri into Arkansas and eastern sections of Oklahoma. Here is the setup here for us into the weekend. Big dip in the jet stream here for us, and out ahead of that, we're going to be talking about lots and lots of moisture leading to that threat for some of the flooding problems that we'll see. Do want to update you, though, on a storm that continues to move its way across now into Alabama. Looks like a new tornado warning here that has popped up. This is for Lee County as well as Russell counties here in Alabama. Getting ready, that storm to cross over the state line into Georgia. So we're looking just west of Columbus. Tornado warning that's in effect. Phoenix City, you are included until 11:45. So we were talking about this line of storms here in southeastern Alabama and that potential for them to sort of spin up some of these isolated tornadoes. So once again, Doppler radar indicating some rotation here, and a tornado warning has now been issued here for us in Alabama. Heads up in Columbus, if this thing holds together, you may be in line to deal with that. But for now, it's now in Alabama. Doppler radar indicating a bit of rotation with this particular storm heading in that general direction on off towards the east. Tough to pick out the rotation here showing up here from the Doppler radar, but the National Weather Service office certainly a feeling that it bodes watching very closely. We'll time it out here, show you the most dangerous part of the storm. Again, moving towards the north and the east just a bit. You've got Ladonia at around 11:36. Phoenix City as we get just beyond 11:40. Bibb City right around the 12:47 time frame, and then Columbus as we get around 12:50. So now's the time, if you're in any of those locations and some of the spots surrounding them, you want to get into your safety zone. If you have a basement, get into that lowermost portion of the home or building that you're in and get away from the windows here as we're tracking this tornado warned storm in place. Crawford right now, heavy downpours, but the most dangerous part of the storm is off towards your east at this point. Again, getting ready to move its way across the state line on into Columbus, Georgia. Still tracking that tornado warned storm there in Pike County here. This is to the south and the west of that first storm we were just talking about. Looks like Troy now dealing with the heavy rain, maybe a bit of a hail. But now the tornado warned part of the storm is off towards your north and east. So still talking Pike County until 11:45. A storm moving on off towards the east a bit here for us. Again, dangerous storm still showing up the rotation here on the radar. You can clearly see that green heading towards the radar, the red heading away from it. So that's that broad area of rotation which is showing up there. And let's see if we can time this out and show you some of the spots that could be impacted in the next few moments. There we have Catalpa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing pronouncing that right, approaching 1140. You got Ebenezer Baptist Church also in that time frame. Sainfield at 1143, along with Zebulon Church, and then Jones Chapel right around 1151. So again, still showing the rotation here on the radar here. Doppler radar indicated this tornado warned storm in southern parts of Alabama. Right now we've got two in place, one for Pike County, the other one for Lee and Russell counties there in Alabama. Lots to track here through the rest of this afternoon. Jackie?
Thanks, Alex. We want to take you to Indianapolis now, where we could be looking at multiple days of a severe weather threat. It's cloudy and kind of calm right now. Cool temperatures, too. Only 54 degrees, but the threat of severe weather, along with heavy downpours, is on the way starting tomorrow and lasting into the weekend as well. We want to get more on the severe weather threat. Let's head on over to Dr. Greg Postel.
Jackie, thanks a lot. I think later on tomorrow, we're going to see another round of big thunderstorms form right along a frontal zone that's going to be stretching east to west from, say, Oklahoma and Texas all the way to Indiana and Kentucky. Look at this map. So this is the frontal zone. Probably it's not going to look quite as wiggly as it's shown right here, but the idea is that that's the feature to track tomorrow, because along it, I think we're going to see a lot of storms and a lot of heavy rain. Heavy rain, probably the biggest of all hazards, with the flash flooding attending that. So this is the Friday night severe weather. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot going on during the day tomorrow, but tomorrow night there will likely be some severe weather along that frontal zone with large hail, of course, a lot of rain, lightning, maybe some strong gusty winds, and possibly a couple of tornadoes too. Can't rule that out, because sometimes along fronts like that, you can get some squirrely wind shear that allows some tornadoes to form. So tomorrow during the day, I think we're looking pretty good. Not going to see a whole lot. And then by 10, 11 o'clock in the night, we're going to start to see a new development area of thunderstorms right along that zone. So this is one of the areas to watch pretty closely during the late afternoon and evening hours tomorrow. And it's not going to be moving much. This area of rain and storms kind of hangs out. That's one of the problems why this is going to be such a hazardous event to deal with, particularly with flash flooding, because we will see a lot of rain develop right in that swath overnight on Saturday and into Sunday. And coming up later, we'll talk about when on Saturday and Sunday we're going to see some more storms develop to the south. So it's going to be a busy weekend with flooding, hail, high winds, and even tornadoes on the docket. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Weather Center Live, guys. We've got some tornado warnings right now in place across parts of eastern Alabama and western Georgia. In this area right here, let's look at the big view to show you, give you some sort of orientation here. That's the storms, set of storms we're watching. They've been with us all morning, and from time to time, they have been producing some tornado warnings, and in fact, a couple of confirmed tornadoes. Let's zoom in on a couple of these, and we can start one by one, going through and letting you know where you need to be or not to be. I mean, if the tornado warning is issued, make sure you get into an interior location of your house, away from windows. And this tornado warning, this first one in Alabama, Pike County, effective until 11:45 a.m. Central Time. This is a storm that has been moving northeastward at about 35 miles per hour, and it does indeed look like it has a hook echo right there on the south eastern side of that storm. So let's zoom in. There's a couple of areas to watch. There's an area of rotation right up in here, right in there. Can you see that? You got the reds and the greens doing something like that, and that indicates definitely that this is a rotating storm. This is a Doppler radar indicated tornado. We don't have confirmation of one in progress, but certainly the radar is detecting significant rotation inside of that storm, and we are not, this is good news, one in Alabama, we are not seeing effective co-location with debris flying around in the air. We're not seeing any of that. This is a spinning storm. It's got the potential to produce a tornado, but because we're seeing red here on what's called the correlation coefficient, that means that we're not seeing any debris being kicked up. So it may just be a wall cloud, could be a funnel cloud, or even less than that. Could be just the rotating updraft of the supercell. But in any case, it is going to be at these locations at those times in Alabama. So please, if you are in these locations, take shelter now. It is the most prudent action to take, and move to an interior room or away from windows, and closet, bathroom, whatever, inside of your house, or find a sturdy structure. Farther to the northeast from there, this is now Phoenix City crossing over into Georgia from Alabama. This is a storm that also has a tornado warning with it, and there's lots here on this radar. You can see all kinds of reds and yellows, and it's hard to pick out anything from this reflectivity view. But if you switch over to the Doppler velocities, again, this is Phoenix City, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia, you can see the sort of tight coupling between greens and reds. Again, another Doppler radar indicated rotation. No confirmation of a tornado here, but what we've got is greens and reds showing you a rotation inside of this storm, about ready to cross over from Alabama into Georgia, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. An important part of this, stay on this with me, Alan, this is the correlation coefficient. This is also showing us good news in that it is not likely kicking up any debris. If it were, you'd see a blue spot in there, and we're seeing only red where that circulation is, meaning there may be just a wall cloud, it may be a funnel cloud, maybe not even either one of those. The storm just happens to be rotating. That's good news, but it might indeed produce a tornado with any next scan. Could be the next couple of minutes. Watch out. The Doppler radar indicated circulation is moving that way into Georgia, moving about over Columbus right now, and is moving northeastward again, 35 miles per hour. So if you're in Columbus or in Phoenix City, you might as well take shelter in an interior room, again, away from windows, and don't go outside and try to watch anything like this. That is not the right thing to do. Here are some of the timing out for this particular storm. Bibb City, Columbus, all the way through Midland over the next, I would say, half an hour or so. This is a set of storms now that has been with us all morning long. There's no reason to think that the tornado risk is decreasing. I think it will stay with us for the next several hours. If you look at the bigger view, stay with me here, Alan. This is great. This is the area that we're going to be watching. And there may be more tornado warnings coming with this line of storms moving eastward from Alabama into Georgia. So be very careful. Looks like the worst of all the weather is going to slide south of Atlanta, probably perhaps south of Peachtree City. But Macon, watch out. These storms are to your west. They're upstream. They're kind of moving your way. And with that, we've introduced a new severe weather risk area today. That does include Macon and extends northeastward from there. This is a frontal zone that's moving through in a very humid air mass. There's a lot of buoyancy and there's a lot of wind shear available for these storms to be supercellular, produce large hail, and even some tornadoes, as we've seen already. So stay with us. We'll have much more on this, the severe weather risk today, moving from Alabama into Georgia right after the break.
Spring Lawn Prep brought to you by John Deere. Nothing runs like a deer.
Welcome back to Weather Center Live. We have severe weather ongoing across parts of eastern Alabama and western Georgia. Let's go to the radar because this tells you exactly who's going to be impacted by this. A cluster of bad thunderstorms, actually. There's quite a bit of supercell activity here in this narrow line. It's accompanying a frontal zone that is moving through from west to east. Most of it looks like it's going to slide south of the Atlanta, Georgia area. It is moving through now Columbus. Again, this area that we've been tracking all morning long has had a history of not only triggering tornado warnings, but also producing a couple of confirmed tornadoes. So let's now have a look at a high resolution radar look at what we've got inside of this. Just for reference, there's the Georgia-Alabama line. So over here, this is Alabama, and this is Georgia. And all along here, there are hook echoes. This is hook echo galore all up and down this line. They're not very big storms geographically, but they each one of them have a well-defined circulation inside of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and we're going to zoom in here on this particular storm that's got a tornado warning on it near Perote, Alabama, just to the west of Mount Andrew. Can you kind of see that hook echo right in about like that? This is definitely a rotating storm, and the way to confirm that is to show you the storm relative velocities. And you see a relatively broad rotation with this. It's not real tight. The reds and the greens are not super close together or particularly strong, but there is still some distinct rotation in that. This is a radar indicated tornado moving northeast at about 35 miles per hour. Looks to pass to the north of Mount Andrew, Alabama. So that's the circulation in there, looking relatively broad. At this point, that's good. I can see if there's any debris or anything like that being kicked around. Does not look like that right now. Instead, in this area, we're seeing all uniformly red colors, meaning basically it is not detecting, the radar is not detecting any debris being kicked up. If there were, you'd see it as a blue spot or something like that, and that's good news there. So I'm going to back out of this and look at that line of storms because there's a couple of other areas that I want to look at that actually are not being tornado warned right now. This one right in here, just southwest of Hurtsboro in Alabama. So right in there, you see that little triangle? The radar is detecting some at least significant rotation in there, and there it is. This is a much tighter couplet, according to the velocities, showing you reds and greens doing something like that. Now we can look inside of that little area of rotation just to the southwest of Hurtsboro to see if indeed there is a co-location of some debris being kicked around. And here, this is good news too. We're not seeing any of that. We're seeing mostly all red here. So that's good news. There is a pretty strong rotation and maybe a wall cloud in there, maybe even a funnel cloud, but we're not seeing any debris being kicked up. That is good news. This one also moving northeast at about 35 miles per hour. So Hurtsboro, Alabama, please take shelter. Even though there's not a tornado warning with this, there may be one in due time. So again, this is all part of a cluster of storms, and you can see it for your eyes. There's a hook echo right there, a supercell, a little one right there, one right there, one right there, one right there. They're all over the place, guys. And this is a line or a cluster of storms moving out of Alabama into Georgia that has to be contended with because it is going to likely contain, we think, severe weather along the way. The conditions are favorable. We've got the cape, we've got the buoyancy, we've got the wind shear, guys. This is going to be an active next couple of hours, I think. Now I'm going to send it over to Alex and Jackie to look at those individual locations and the timing of these storms as they move through.
All right, thanks so much, Dr. Postell. Indeed, getting more and more active here this afternoon, and yeah, that line continues essentially now south and east of 85, now beginning to pull into portions of Georgia.
Right, so we want to put some storm trackers on these and give you an idea of who all could be impacted by these rotating thunderstorms. And something to keep in mind too, by the way, while we're seeing the circulation on radar, we haven't seen any ground truth on any of these, but a tornado could touch down at any time. If so, it would likely be a weak tornado, maybe something along the lines of an EF1, maybe a 2, but it's enough that it could potentially, say, take a roof off of a house, right, or to bring down trees. So you do need to take them seriously and take shelter. So here we want to mention a few cities. Mount Calvary Church at 11:57, Fairview School impacted at 12:04, Merritt High School at 12:15, and Midway also right around 12:15.
Yeah, so another dangerous storm tracking its way. This is in Alabama. This is the one that certainly in Pike County was cited by the Pike County Sheriff, actually saying there was a tornado there. So dangerous storm, no doubt about it. Take it seriously. It seems to have at least weakened just a bit in terms of the rotation, but a dangerous storm nonetheless there in Bullitt County. And another tornado warned storm now just to the north of Columbus. That's Muskogee County in Georgia. Welcome back into Weather Central Live. I'm meteorologist Alex Wallace.
And I'm meteorologist Jackie Jarris. We've been tracking a line of thunderstorms that have multiple supercells within this, and now some tornado warnings that we're tracking. We've got a severe weather threat and a flood danger ongoing as we head into the weekend. It's something we're tracking very closely.
All right, so let's get into some of these storms here. Dangerous storms moving now from Alabama into Georgia. We'll stay in Alabama first, show you what's going on here. This storm pulled out of Pike County of Sheriffs. They're seeing a tornado now pulling into Bullock County. This includes the city of Midway, moving basically off over 239 towards the Midway area there. So a dangerous storm indeed. Get into your safety zone now because this storm has a history of producing a tornado. Doppler radar indicating rotation with this particular storm. And there it is right there. You can see the green heading towards the radar. The radar is there, the red away from it. So it's in that zone right in there where we've got that rotation. So see if we can time this out, Alan, and see some of the cities that'll be impacted here in the next few moments, where that most dangerous part of the storm is, at least the rotation with this storm. You got Pickett essentially right around now. Then you get over towards Fairview School at 12:06, heading towards Midway a bit past 12:15, and the Great Hope African Methodist Episcopal Church as we move towards 12:25. So seek shelter now in those areas.
Yeah, this is a really fast-moving storm, too, by the way. Latest estimate is it's moving about 55 miles per hour. So you can't outdrive something like this, right? You need to pull over. You need to get to your safe place and stay indoors at the lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows.
All right, moving north from there, this is the newest tornado warned storm now. This is for Russell County, including Crawford as well as Hurtsboro. At this point, you can see the area that is outlined in that tornado warning for this particular storm right here. And again, another dangerous storm is showing up rotation here, indicated by the Doppler radar again. And that is one of the reasons why the National Weather Service pulled the trigger and issued that tornado warning there. That does include Hurtsboro.
Yeah, this is the one Dr. Postel was looking at just before the top of the hour, showing you that we saw that rotation, which, by the way, is a little bit outside of the box. So it's still west of Hurtsboro. Keep that in mind. If you live in that city, you need to be seeking shelter immediately. So we've been seeing some good rotation on Doppler radar now for about at least 10 minutes, I would say. Here's the timing. So Hurtsboro right at 12:01. So that's just about now. You're just about there. 12:11 in Wend, or is it Wendy? I'm not sure. And then Sanford at 12:28, and by 12:30 it heads towards the Sanford School.
Yeah, so another dangerous storm, and that's what we've been watching here this afternoon. A line of storms sort of tracking across Alabama. A lot of it rotating, or a lot of those storms showing rotation here on the radar and indicating here, at least the radar, Doppler radar indicates tornado, and then we'll be watching this progress across into an air mass that is very unstable, and a lot of the ingredients are there for them to rotate and lead to some of these issues. Here's yet another tornado warning, Jackie. This is one of the storms that was in Alabama, has crossed the state line into Georgia, and north of Columbus, Muskogee County, you've got a tornado warning until 1:15.
And that includes Bibb City as well. So the Storm Prediction Center, by the way, has been monitoring these today as well. They said they're probably not going to issue a watch because it's going to be isolated enough, but we really want to highlight the danger here because we may see more tornadoes develop along with these supercells in the upcoming hours. So this is going to go on, I think, well into the next few hours into the afternoon.
Yeah, that's for sure. Looking at the rotation here, tough to see, much broader in nature, looking a bit more diffuse for us, but nonetheless, we'll track it here where we looked at, for the most dangerous part of the storm to be moving, and we've got basically William Henry Shaw High School in the next few moments, their next 4 minutes or so. Fortson at 1:09, Central Church at 1:21, and then you got Ellerslie at 1:22. So again, another dangerous storm that we're continuing to follow, pulling now out of Alabama and into Georgia.
Right. Even though we weren't still seeing a lot of strong rotation on the radar, it could just be cycling through and tighten back up. So keep that in mind. But also, we've been seeing a lot of hail with some of these thunderstorms too. In fact, about 1 inch in diameter. That can cause a lot of damage. That in of itself should keep you inside. Oh, there we go. So Alan rocking the radar for us here, putting the hail on there. And there you can see, estimating some of those purples would be the largest hail, and that's just west of Columbus. So that's going to be pushing right in your direction.
Yeah, you got an inch-size hail estimated by the radar. That's a bit aloft. So getting close to quarter-size hail with some of these storms as they're moving on by. So that is yet another danger of the storms, along with the heavy downpours and lightning. We've seen quite a bit of lightning with these storms as well as they've been moving on by. So a lot of dangers to track here, moving from southern parts of Georgia and on officially Alabama into Georgia. There are the lightning strikes, and my goodness, it is lit up here for us about right around the Columbus area. That's from one storm. A lot of lightning there, and that's going to be moving towards that 75 corridor before long. Making heads up, these storms are heading in your direction. Warner Robins as well. You could be in line to deal with these storms in the next few hours.
Right, and it concerns me because this is a lunch hour, at least in Alabama. Oh, you're on Central Time there. You head over the state line into Georgia, and you're on Eastern Time, so keep that in mind. But if you're in your workplace and you're wondering, where should I go? What should I do? Hopefully you've got that plan in place already. But a stairwell is a good idea. You want to take the stairs downward, by the way, too, to get to the lowest level of your office building.
All right, so here is the area that we'll be concerned with for the rest of our Thursday. Anywhere you see color, chances for thunderstorms, but it's the red zone that we'll be most focused in on in terms of severe. Panhandle of Florida working up into the Carolinas here for you. Damaging wind, and those are going to be the winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. Plenty enough to cause damage with trees, power lines as well. Hail, and again, isolated tornadoes like we've seen here already this day in southern parts of Alabama.
Yeah, not good news is that some of this is heading back over towards the Carolinas, unfortunately, which have been very saturated, and there's been a lot of flooding that's been ongoing there since earlier in the week, so they definitely don't want to see any even wet weather, let alone severe weather, push into their neighborhood.
Good news around the Columbus area, at least north of Columbus. That warning that was in place for Muskogee County, that has now been allowed to expire, canceled there for us. Again, we were looking at the rotation. It was looking much more broad in nature, much more diffuse. So they canceled that warning, but we do have the warning still in place in Russell County now. This is back in Alabama for Crawford as well as Hurtsboro until 12:45 Central Time.
Yeah, we've definitely been seeing that hook signature on the radar for sure, indicating some of that rotation as we look at reflectivity. We were also seeing there, you can, wow, really tight, that nice little cut plate. This is just to the south of Hurtsboro. This is Highway 66 right here, and this storm is moving just north of east at this time. So a very dangerous storm that looks like it's actually intensifying as we speak.
Yeah, clearly rotation showing up on that particular storm. So let's time this out here. If you hear your city, get into your safe zone now because a dangerous storm is headed in your direction. You got, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Hatchachubby at around 12:16, Colbert at 12:21, Sanford at 12:25.
All right, we've got new tornado warnings that continue. We're going to keep you up to date. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Welcome back. Tracking storms in the deep south here this afternoon. We've seen over the last half an hour or so really the eruption of some of these storms and the rotation really showing up here for us on the radar. So there it is, pulling out of Alabama and into Georgia now, the line of storms. And it seems like we've seen again quite a few of those rotating over the last few moments.
Yes, and we could watch that whole line eventually extend into supercells with rotation on them. So let's get to the warnings that we have right now. These are Doppler radar indicated tornadoes, but the threat is real. This is for Barber as well as Bullock County. We have a tornado warning in effect until 12:45. All these storms are moving up to the north and to the east around 30 miles per hour. There you can see our high resolution radar, kind of a snaked line, right? We see a little bit of curvature with that line as well. So it looks like we have two counties being impacted, so one likely to expire and then the other one kind of taken over on it.
I wonder if it's two separate storms. This one here and then that one there. That looks like what we may be dealing with here. In fact, yeah, you can clearly see two areas of rotation. There's one, Jackie just circled it. There's the other one showing up there. So two storms showing the rotation here for us in Alabama. This one now south and west of Midway. So a heads up there is going to be moving in your direction. And then the other one here, which is approaching 239 and moving over towards the east as well. So two storms, separate storms that we're following at the moment.
Yeah, so let's put a track on the one with the stronger rotation right now and let you know who may be impacted. So this is McLean School, could be affected at 12:17. So those teachers need to get those kids in the hallways, right, or maybe in a shelter like a bathroom, something like that, and do their duck and cover drill for sure. Also included Garvin Crossroads at 12:18, Center Ridge School at 12:20, and at 12:32 Mount Scilia School. So always unnerving as a parent when you see schools that could potentially be in line to these storms, because we know they're in session. Some of those kids might be in the lunchroom.
Absolutely, indeed. Then we head a little bit farther on off towards the north, and again, still tracking that storm here south and west of Midway. We'll time that out for you here over the next, we'll call it half hour or so, and show you what we'll be dealing with. Merritt High School, you had another school involved around 12:14, Midway in that same general zone, and then Nero Beach as we get a little bit past 12:30. So if it holds together there, you could be in line. So if you heard your city, your school in those areas, please get into your safe zone, shelter in the basement if you have that. If not, innermost portion of your home, lowest floor of your home, and getting away from the windows. Yet another storm, Jackie, that has a tornado warning on it. This is for Russell County again. We're still in Alabama.
Yeah, so this is one that we've been tracking for quite a while that was just skirting near and south of the Hurtsboro area. This is the one that we saw rotating on radar before the warning was on it, and now we've got that warning which has been extended farther off towards the east. So this is Russell County. Notice that this is scooting right along Highway 26 here, and that's going to be the area of concern. Rotation as well as some large hail, very likely, as we see some of those higher reflectivity signatures for sure. So zooming in a little bit closer to get a better handle on that one, and then we can get storm track on it and give you an idea of some of the cities and counties and perhaps schools that could be affected by this. Wow, we're really looking at a pretty good signature right there.
Yeah, right there. There's the rotation with that storm, and it's going to continue to move on off towards the northeast, basically following that that warning here. So eventually, Route 1 will be impacted as well. In fact, let's time it out. Alan's doing a great job of that. Over the next half hour or so, we got Mount Sinai Church, 12:17, so getting very close to that time frame. Hatchetchubby at 12:18, Colbert at 12:23, Russell County, the vocational school there at 12:31, and Lato at 12:40. You're going to be dealing with this particular storm. So a lot of dangerous storms showing radar, showing rotation here on the radar. Not only are we talking about that potential there, but a lot of heavy rain and even the chance for dealing with some hail as well.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of lightning on this as well. All right, so we want to show you the severe thunderstorm warning now on this one that's northeast of Columbus. This storm previously had a tornado warning on that. That was allowed to expire and be replaced with a severe thunderstorm warning, but they did put the tagline on it that a tornado is still possible here, and we see a little bit of hook. So definitely stay in your safe place in Harris County. Welcome back to Weather Center Live. We're continuing to track the threat of severe thunderstorms, some of which may be producing tornadoes as we speak. We've been tracking this line across southeastern parts of Alabama into west central Georgia, and we've got several warnings still ongoing.
Yeah, dangerous storms indeed. Let's get into one here in Georgia here for you. And just on cue, we were watching it here, and we were looking at a lot of rotation showing up, and we were wondering, are they going to issue a tornado warning? And sure enough, there they have, Marion and Talbot County here. This includes Geneva, Junction City, as well as Talbotton until 1:45. Tornado warning is in effect. So we were talking severe at a point. The rotation sort of calmed down a bit, but now it's tightened up a bit more. So now the National Weather Service has certainly issued that warning. There's the rotation showing up there for you. Clearly, you can see red and green here, pretty broad, but nonetheless, still got to make sure folks are getting into their safe zone right now. If you're in Junction City, Talbotton, please get into your safe zone and shelter now. Danger storm is headed in your direction.
Right, we're also seeing the hook on the radar as well. So this is velocity mode, where we take a look at the wind speed and the wind direction, and you can see that they're opposing each other, indicating that circulation. So storm track on this now showing you Junction City at around 1:31 p.m. Po-Biddy Crossroads by 1:33, Bethel Church by 1:40, and I'm not sure I can pronounce that one, Alex. If you want to try it, go for it. But 1:44 p.m. Ypsilanti. Ypsilanti. I just got confirmation. All right.
Well, there you go. So yeah, dangerous storms moving through a storm moving through Georgia. We've seen a few more back into even Alabama that have been exhibiting and showing rotation as well. We actually had one tornado in Pike County there in Alabama, where the sheriff's department reported a tornado. So that storm certainly meant business, and we'll want to take all of these warnings very seriously, because we could be looking at tornadoes moving through your area.
Right, and we're getting a lot of heavy downpours associated with these too. So sometimes those tornadoes can be wrapped in rain so that they're actually not visible. So that's something to keep in mind. And we also have some hail being reported with many of these thunderstorms around an inch in diameter, which can do a bit of damage as well.
So here's yet another storm. This is now moving into Alabama. We've got Russell County until 12:45. Tornado warning is in effect here for us. So be on the lookout. This is the storm that continues to move on off towards basically the north and the east here for you. Some of the areas that could be impacted, you got 26 there that's involved. Route 26 there for you as the storm continues to move in that general direction. Again, showing that the rotation on the radar has been a big concern here with this particular storm. A little bit more broad in nature right now, but clearly you can see that red and green right next to each other. So that is the area of most concern right now with this particular storm moving on off towards the north and the east.
Yeah, we've been tracking this one now for about 30 minutes. So we've been seeing it kind of cycle through. We saw very tight circulation maybe about 10 minutes ago. Now we see it broadening up a little bit, but that's very typical of what sometimes these tight little supercells can do. They'll spin things up, they'll loosen it out, and then redevelop itself. So definitely need to be in your safe place right now. Colbert affected at 12:24, Sanford at 12:28, Sanford School very shortly thereafter, Latto at 12:42, and then Uchee Valley School. So this is the one near Hurtsboro. Remember, that's just down to the south and west of there. That's probably the biggest nearby city to this south.
So that's one more storm there, another one off towards the south and the west. From there, another tornado warned storm. So we've got a couple of them here. This is now Barber as well as Bullock County, staying again in the state of Alabama until 12:45. That tornado warning in effect here for you. So heads up again, more storms that are in place. And again, the rotation showing up right there with this particular storm, heading closer to 51 now. So if you're on 51 between Midway and Clayton, now's the time to get into your safe zone. A dangerous storm is headed in your direction.
Yes, and more storms are developing south and west of this area. We'll continue to track those along with the flood threat coming up after this.
Well, welcome back as we continue to follow storms that have been moving across Alabama, southern portions of the state, and even into the state of Georgia. Several of them showing rotation on the radar. So the Weather Service offices have been issuing some of these warnings, tornado warnings, and we still have a few of those in place right now.
That's right. Russell County has been allowed to cancel, so that's some good news, but we want to tell you the active ones as we speak. And we'll zoom in first of all here across southern Alabama. We've been tracking this storm for quite a while now. You can see the broader view of that line of showers and thunderstorms. Just a couple individual of those storms have been rotating, but they are dangerous nonetheless. So this is for Barber County. The Bullock County part of this, by the way, has now been allowed to expire as well. So we're really focusing in on Barber County until 12:45. But interesting, Alex, as we look at that high resolution radar there, we actually have one, two, three different cells that are moving through that area as we speak, all of which may have the potential for some rotation if they're not rotating right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The most dangerous one right now seems to be that lead one, which is now crossing right over 51 between Midway and Clayton, heading in the direction of 82. So if you're in that area, again, we're now in the southeastern part of Alabama. If you're in those spots, now's the time to get into your safety zone because a dangerous storm is moving in your general direction. We've got Mount Scylla Church Road as well as County Road 49 heading over towards the Pleasant Hill Road area and even Grant Road. So if you're any of those areas I just mentioned, the storm is headed in direction. We'll time out and show you a couple of other locations over the next few moments that could be impacted. Barber County, the State Wildlife Management Area, a little bit past 1233. I mentioned Mount Scylla School. 1235. Comer United Methodist Church heads up there at 1243. And if it holds together, Comer 1244, you could be dealing with this dangerous rotating storm.
All right, so you need to be in your safe place now. Just a reminder, the lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows. If you've got a basement, of course, that's the best place to be. And mobile homes are never a safe place to be. So hopefully if you do live in a mobile home park, you've been planning ahead for this, or that your park has a shelter, some of which do.
Absolutely. Hail, that's been an issue with some of these storms. With the particular storm that we were following in the tornado warning, not the case here with that particular storm. So that's some good news, but the big risk is certainly going to be that rotating part of the storm and the potential tornado. There has been a bit of lightning with some of these storms as well. So lots of dangers along, of course, with the heavy downpours with these storms, and more off towards the west. So you got one storm moving by, a couple more coming in from the west. That could lead to some problems if they slow down and dump the rain there. Then we head northbound, and we've been following more storms here into Georgia. Severe thunderstorm warning still in effect, but zooming into the most dangerous part of the storm where we've had some rotation showing up from Marion and Talbot counties. That tornado warning still continuing until 1:45.
Yeah, so we'll show you the high resolution radar and the potential of that rotation. Looks like it may be right along or near Highway 96 at this time. These are moving up to the northeast, and they're moving fairly rapidly as well. So there you can see that area of rotation right in there where the red and the green meet up. And he's moving that radar on me just a little bit there. So that's very near Junction City here, kind of sandwiched in between Junction City and Talbot. And so we'll put the track on this, Po Diddy Crossroads at 1:38 p.m., Baldwinville at 1:40, Bethel Church around 1:46, Ypsilanti at 1:47, and then Crossroad Church at 1:52 p.m. So definitely seeing good indication that there's some good rotation with this storm. You do need to be seeking shelter and be in your safe place.
We haven't had any confirmation with these particular storms in terms of a tornado being spotted, but treat it as if one has, because that could certainly be the case out there for you. They don't put the warnings out just for nothing. There's a reason they do so. So again, rotation of this particular storm as it's now pulling its way. Essentially, it looks like the most dangerous part should move just to the north and west of Junction City there. Zooming out the picture so you see the broader view now. We've essentially got those two storms that are warned, tornado warned here in Georgia, as well as there into Alabama. But this whole area, this whole line is going to continue to move on off towards the east, and the environment is still sort of ripe for them to continue to be quite frisky here for us. So that's why we do still have that potential anywhere in the red for Macon, getting up into the Carolinas for these storms to be severe.
Yeah, we've got a lot of moisture in place. It's been very warm the last couple of days, and so now we've got that cold front coming through, giving us a lift in the atmosphere and giving us the ingredients. So not a huge outbreak today. There's not a watch in effect, but these are isolated storms that can cause damage, so the threat will be ongoing, we think, over the next several hours still.
And in fact, the Storm Prediction Center is sort of outlooking these areas here a little bit farther east from where the storms are now for a potential watch, giving it about a 60% chance of that happening. So if that does happen, we will certainly let you know if the Storm Prediction Center does issue a watch, again, a little bit farther east from where the current storms are. So again, the conditions are looking a little bit more ripe for that to take place. Looks like the most dangerous part of the storms will stay south of the Atlanta area, but heads up, Macon, Warner Robins, eventually Augusta, Columbia, you'll be in line to deal with some stronger storms.
Looks like we just got a new warning, probably an extension off that other one there, so off of Talbot. So it's been extended farther east into Talbot County and includes Taylor County now as well as Junction City until 12:15 p.m. So they're just extending the timeout as this storm continues to push off towards the north and to the east. So it doesn't look like necessarily an addition.
Getting out there, seeing a clear view of that potential tornado there, but certainly rotation showing up. Pretty looking a little tighter now. That's in place right there, that red and green right next to each other there. So the red moving away from the radar, the green towards. So there's the rotation and the storm moving it towards the east. So right towards that 19 corridor. Looks like it'll stay just north of Butler. So anywhere north of Butler right now. We'll time it out here. Bethel Church basically in the next 4 minutes or so. Shiloh Church a few minutes beyond that around 1:43. Jarrell at 1:54 and then continuing towards Antioch Baptist Church, closing it on 2, and just past 2 you got Damascus Church. So any of those areas, those churches I just mentioned, if you're living in those surrounding spots, please get into your safe zone now. Danger storm is headed in your direction.
All right, so there we switched back to the reflectivity mode where we can see a lot of bright return. So that's indicating that there's likely a lot of heavy rain. We also saw a little purple that was popping up in there, that there may be some hail being reported with this thunderstorm as well, and a lot of lightning, just a massive amount of lightning kind of wall to wall across this region. So that can cause some damage. We want to stay indoors. Now we've got the hail size indicated on this. We were showing you those purple returns now, and so this is estimating some reasonable sized hail there north of Geneva, near at Talbotton, and south of Waverly Hall. So it's all that purple where we're likely seeing the largest hail, at least an inch in diameter. There it is. Looks like maybe 1.5 inches perhaps even.
Yeah, absolutely. So the radar getting a chance to sort of estimate the hailstones and the hail sizes there aloft. Of course, as it begins to drop to the ground, you get some melting. So that 1.4 is generally going to be a little bit larger than what you see at the ground. But no doubt, quarter size, certainly quite capable of these storms of putting down that kind of hail.
Yeah, and so this is our short-term model that kind of shows you the direction of where the large hail is going to be moving. So this just shows you that it's going to continue to push up towards the north and east and eventually butt up here along Highway 19 as well. And notice the darker color where we're expecting some of the larger hail to be associated with this. So that's where you might see that 1-inch number. There
you go. So that sort of northern edge of the storm, the hail issues, southern part, that's where we got that rotation showing up. They're moving now right along 208 towards the east, just north of Butler, to a rotating thunderstorm here, showing it there on the radar, and that warning continues there across Georgia. Still that warning that continues here into Alabama as well. So again, a couple of these storms here still ongoing here that are dangerous. Seek shelter now. We'll continue to follow these storms and talk about what we can expect for the rest of the afternoon and evening just in a bit. Dangerous storms continuing here this afternoon, Jackie, here across parts of the deep south. Line of storms, and they really fired up here over the last hour and a half or so.
Yes, we have. We have breaking news that we want to share with you. Radar indicating confirmation that there must be a tornado on the ground. This is in Georgia in Taylor and Talbot counties, and so this is the cell that we want to get to right now. This is reflectivity. You can see very bright. We see a little hook signature on the radar as well. This is near Junction City right now. We want to switch this over into our velocity mode and show you where we see that very strong signature, because it gives you a better idea of the exact location of where that rotation is. And boy, it sticks out like a sore thumb there, Alex, doesn't it?
Yeah, right there is pretty clear. You've got that tight couplet that is in place. The green basically headed towards the radar in that direction. The red heading away from it as well. And then right there, I mean, right there is where we've got that really tight rotation, and co-located with it now, we switch the mode to what we call the correlation coefficient. And this gives you a sense of where we've got basically an area where we're not looking at raindrops or hail, but some other object that is tumbling there in the atmosphere. And so the radar pinpoints that area that is unlike the rain and the other hailstones, and shows you exactly what we've got. It's either trees or other debris that's showing up here for you, co-located where that tight couplet is. And that's a very strong indication that we're dealing with a tornado here, which is on the ground. So this is dangerous. No doubt about it. Now is not the time to mess around. Wesley Church, Jarrell, Antioch Baptist Church, Olive Grove Church. If you're in any of those areas and surrounding spots, please get into your safe zone now. An extremely dangerous storm is headed in your way.
Yeah, so this is a good indication when we see the rotation on radar. Then we couple that with our debris signature there on the correlation coefficient. Very telling. There's that spot that we're looking at right now that this is causing some type of damage right now. It could be a brief touchdown, or it may stay on the ground for a longer period of time, but it's something that we need to keep a very close eye on. You need to seek shelter in this area immediately. Now, you may not be able to actually see this tornado. We call this a HP cell, or high precipitation cell. So when you see all of this red on the map here, that's indicating a lot of reflectivity and heavy rain that's coming down at a very good clip, which means the tornado could be wrapped in rain. So you might not be able to see through that rain shield to see the tornado behind it.
Yeah, highly unlikely here. Again, there is the rotating part of the storm. Alan, if we can go back to the reflectivity to show, again, there's the rotation, but we look at the rain right around it. So it's going to be impossible to see any kind of tornado here with this thing wrapped in all kinds of rain coming down in buckets. So don't be a hero trying to snap pictures and video. Life is the most important thing right now, as this storm is moving now. It looks like we've got another scan update. So the rotation now is shifted off towards this area, and that's where we've got that debris signature that's showing up for us right now, heading over towards 19, just north of 208.
Yeah, unfortunately, notice that this has not only moved eastward, but it's also expanded in size a little bit. So that does show us that there's continued debris in the air. Now, it can get lofted up there, and it can stay in there for a while, even after the funnel perhaps lifts up a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. But there you can see that matches up with the couplet of where we're seeing the green and the red coming together. And notice the reflectivity on this, too, is a little bit brighter. So we're seeing a lot of confidence here that there is damage being produced by a tornado in Talbot and Taylor counties. This is in Georgia.
So there are the cities that could be impacted. Cities and a couple few churches as well. You got Jarrell at around 1:51. So in the next 4 or 5 minutes or so, Zion Hill Church, Antioch Baptist Church, Damascus Church, Olive Grove Church. If you live in any of those areas, or maybe you know anyone that lives in those areas, pick up the phone, give them a call, say, hey, get to your safe zone now, because you've got a storm that is more than likely producing a tornado headed in your direction.
All right, we just got word that the Storm Prediction Center has decided to issue a tornado watch to cover this area. We've watched several warnings over the last couple of hours, and now we have a watch. So we expect this to be ongoing. This is until 8 o'clock tonight. We'll be right back.
Spring Lawn Prep brought to you by John Deere. Nothing runs like a deer.
Well, tracking storms across parts of the Deep South, Storm Prediction Center just newly issued us a tornado watch here for you. This is in the state of Georgia, to include Macon up towards Augusta until 8 o'clock this evening. And Jackie, we've been watching these storms in Alabama now crossing the state line, and a lot of these storms showing the rotation on the radar.
Yes, this does not include the Atlanta metro area, by the way. This is south of there, so that's the good news, that most of these storms that have been developing have been a little bit more remote, so affecting fewer people. However, we are tracking this one cell now that is likely producing a tornado on the ground with debris signatures in the air causing damage, likely active as we speak.
Yeah, so we have been watching now it's actually extending a little bit farther because, again, the storm is holding on to that rotation. So now we've got Crawford, Taylor, and Upson counties here until 2:45. Tornado warning is in effect. This has been a really nasty looking storm showing up here for us on the radar, and you can see where it is in relation to Macon. I mean, we're only looking less than 30 miles away. How fast is this storm moving? Do we know, Alan?
I think it's around 30.
30 miles?
Last check, it was about 30.
30 miles an hour. So essentially here in the next maybe half hour or so, you'll be looking for this storm to move in that direction. So very close to Macon. And again, it's just south and west of you. Tornado warning here for Crawford, Taylor, as well as Upson. So northeast movement at around 30 miles an hour. So in the next hour or so, Macon, you maybe in line to deal with this storm. If it holds together, well, we could be talking about a tornado moving in your direction. The rotation has been pretty tight with this particular storm. Radar confirmed tornado, but essentially here's what we've been dealing with this particular storm, now crossing over 19 and heading on off towards the east.
Right, so we're on reflectivity mode right now, and we really can't see any hooks or anything to give us an idea that we have a tornado, but it's showing some really heavy rain. And so something to keep in mind is if we have a tornado on the ground here, it's likely wrapped in that rain shield and you're not going to be able to see it. So don't wait to take cover until you actually see the tornado, because by that time it may very well be too late. So let's